Hey, what is going on, guys? Talk Norwich City here, back for an opposition preview ahead of this weekend's game against Brentford. What better fan to get on than Billy from beside Brentford? How you doing, mate?
Not bad, Jack. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, except for Norwich, not too bad at all. I mean, you're coming down to Carrow Road this weekend. First time in a little while we've played each other, actually. You're not in the best run of form either, though, are you?
We're not. We've only won 1 in 8. Bit of a strange one. Off the back of after we sort of lost to Newcastle, it kind of all seemed to go downhill after that. It's hard to put our finger on it because it's quite similar. Dean Smith's been in there for, I think it's a year anniversary since he's been manager now. So when he came in, first couple of games was, he did all right. And then after that, we had a really terrible run. He had an absolutely terrible run. And January, February, March, I think he only won one game out of those three months. And literally every other game, we kind of lost it. But also, not only that, we were terrible. The football we were playing was terrible. The vibe was terrible. You can see there was no passion in the way the players were playing. They were trying, but they just didn't quite get it together. Now, some of the arguments were that he was a new manager. He'd come in, he had to sort out a load of politics at the time.
Okay.
So he had to sort out players who were with the older regime who still wanted to leave. So he had to kind of deal with that scenario. He had to deal with injured players. We had a raft of injured players last season that he had to deal with. He had to deal with players striking. We had James Tarkowski, who decided that he was going to strike because he didn't want to play for us because he wanted to move to Burnley. We had to deal with politics. Obviously, there's internal politics between all sorts of stuff going on. So, yes, we understood that. So we kind of gave him a blight to a certain extent. But there was a lot of, I couldn't believe it. After about 2 months, there was what we don't normally hear, you sort of the dean out by certain members of the fans. But then, all of a sudden, what happened was we turned it around. It was actually ironically when our sort of top player, Alan Judge, broke his leg.
Right.
And he broke his leg at Ipswich last season. It was an absolutely horrific challenge. We were absolutely gutted. Everyone was really gutted. But what he managed to do, it looked like it just galvanised the team.
Yeah.
All these players who weren't normally sort of like, they were fringe players or weren't necessarily seen as first team players, they just stepped up to the plate and they were brilliant. And they won, I think, probably 7 out of their last 9 matches, drew 1, lost 1. So since then, the form that we're in at the moment now is probably sort of similar to that when we had that bad run last year. But the way we're playing football isn't bad like that. We've been lucky. We played. Who did we play on Saturday? We played Birmingham City on Saturday. I'm not being funny. We absolutely battered them. If you listen to our post-match podcast on besotted.co.uk, we've got a podcast on there. We do a podcast after the match. We go to the fans and tell them their thoughts straight away. The Birmingham City fans just said, you absolutely annihilated us. Right. You battered us. I have no idea how we got even 1 point out of that game. We went up to Blackburn. We scored 2 goals, but we gave them 3 goals. But, all their players are about 7'7", right, so we couldn't defend against that. So, so that was a bit of a, that was a bit annoying. We played Fulham recently. We didn't do the business against Fulham, which is annoying because it's like you not doing the business against Ipswich.
Yeah.
So that was a bit annoying. So we didn't do that. But other than that, to be quite honest with you, we've got some good players there. Yes, we need to improve our squad. But we're only a small tide. As people call us, inverted commas, tin pot. We can only afford certain players. We can only afford certain teams. You got your player Sergi Canos.
Yeah.
He would have been in our side, but he wasn't because we couldn't afford him.
Yeah.
Quite straight, we couldn't afford $2.5 million. For that player, even though he would have fitted in our side, he would have been their first player, well, not the first player on the team sheet, but probably the second or third player on the team sheet. But you'll see. But coming back to our form, it's a difficult one because seeing them play like they said against Birmingham. Yes, defensively there's a lot of errors, but we could beat anyone in the day.
Yeah, coming down to Carrow Road on Saturday. How are your fans viewing Norwich City? Because I think one of our downfalls at the moment is Norwich is a sort of a bit of self-entitlement. We feel like we deserve to be in the Premier League without actually playing well enough to be in the Premier League. Do Brentford fans view Norwich City as a big club or kind of a championship club?
I think that Brentford players this season initially, probably very much like yourself when we spoke at the beginning of the season, actually viewed Norwich as a side that will probably go up this season, just from the main fact that you've got a lot of money. You were in the Championship before. They felt that you kept your players as you talked about beforehand, and they thought, listen, Norwich City, they'll do all right. Yeah. There is probably a bit of an air of sort of kind of like they also believe that they should be in the Premier League. But there was more of that actually slightly from the Aston Villa fans, which we were quite surprised about, because we thought the fact that they actually did so badly last season, they would be a little bit more grounded, and we were quite surprised how they didn't quite get to grips with coming to sort of kind of smaller, shabbier stadiums and playing teams with budgets which are about 100th of theirs. So that, for them, they kind of eclipsed on the entitlement front this season so far. So with Norwich, fact is, I think that because we beat you 2 years ago very well when we played you, I think there is a little bit of kind of like, oh, it's Norwich City, they're all right, they're not a bad side, but, we can beat anyone on our day.
Do you think that this is the game then, with Norwich City in such bad form, that you can maybe make it 2 wins out of 8 instead of 1 win out of 8 and start to turn your season around? Because both teams, there's huge stakes on the line, isn't there?
There are. I mean, I'd say there's huger stakes for you than there are for us, because most of our fans expected us to finish. I mean, we did a pre-season blogging session where we got all the bloggers from all the clubs, and besotted.co.uk again, and we just spoke to all of them, and we asked them what they thought. So they gave us some really interesting thoughts, and also they gave them their final league position. And I think Norwich said they were going to be top 6. Brighton said they were going to be first. Newcastle said they're going to be first. Derby County said they were going to be second. It was quite interesting having a look back now. I think our bloggers said, when we polled them as well, they talked about 12th to 14th.
Okay.
So they were quite realistic about where they expected us to be, and they've seen it as a season of change. So for us, we're thinking, tell you something, if we're going to if we finish 10th at one stage, I think we were 5th of the season, and we all went, cool, blimey, we're 5th, that's absolutely tremendous, but we're all really realistic, and we've realised that we are still short of about 3 players. We're still short of 3 players, and we know what those 3 players are going to be. But if those 3 players on that side, that may change things. So for us, getting a win against you, we actually believe wholeheartedly we actually can beat you.
Right.
And this is not an arrogant thing. We've seen ourselves. I mean, we smashed Reading 4-1 at home off the park. Like, what I'm saying? Preston came down here. They were just like, oh my God, you were all over the place. We actually smashed them. So we can do the business against teams, but it really does depend on what team turns up. So yes, it could turn our season around, because after that we got Burton the week afterwards at home. Now technically Burton, we're not going to write them off, because they've beaten a few sides this season. But if you're going to be able to do you need to come and beat Burton. And then we got Cardiff after that, who are struggling a little bit as well. So all of a sudden, if we beat you, you've got 2 or 3 games where all of a sudden you can get yourself back on track, and then it's up to mighty Leeds, And we haven't played the champions of Europe for at least a year now.
Finally, then, mate, let's get your score prediction in for the big game Saturday.
Big game on Saturday. I think the Bees are going to go up there. No fear in our eyes at all. We're going to go out there and do the business. 2-1 to the mighty Brentford.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, mate. Go and check out besotted.co.uk for all of the best Brentford fan content. I'll check you all later.
Nice one.
Once upon a time, a fairy tale.